Welcome back, viewers. You're watching WION World is One. I'm Shivan Janna. This is World DNA, the show that gets you ahead of the rest. Let's start with the headlines. The Palestine Red Crescent Society says one of its staff members has been killed and 3 others have been wounded in an Israeli attack on its headquarters in Gaza. Gaza's health authorities report the death toll from starvation in the Strip has risen to 169 on Saturday after 7 more people, including a child, died from hunger and malnutrition in the last 24 hours. Hundreds of protesters rallied at Hostages Square in Tel Aviv, demanding the Israeli government ends the Gaza war and ensures the return of all hostages. Ukrainian Air Force says Russia launched a record 6,443 drones and missiles into the country in the month of July. The number is the highest of the war to date and around 13% more than what was recorded in June. Former Pakistan Prime Minister and PTI founder Imran Khan orders his party leader and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Chief Minister Ali Amin Gandapur to not allow federal government to conduct another military operation in the province and its tribal areas. In Myanmar, an airstrike on a rebel-occupied Ruby mining hub kills 13 people. The strike comes after the ruling junta ended the state of emergency that it had declared after toppling the government of Aung San Suu Kyi, scheduling elections in December. OPEC Plus will raise oil output again by over 500,000 barrels daily in September, led by Saudi Arabia and Russia, aiming to regain market share amid US pressure for lower prices. And the Palestine Red Crescent Society says one of its staff members was killed and 3 others have been wounded in an Israeli attack on its Khan Yunis headquarters in Gaza. It comes 2 days after US envoy Steve Witkoff visited a US-backed aid station in Gaza to inspect efforts to get food into the devastated Palestinian territory. Now, a video which the PRCS said captures the initial moments of the attack shows fires burning in a building with the floors covered in rubble. The attack comes as UN aid agencies have warned that time was running out and that Gaza was on the brink of a full-scale famine now. As per Gaza health authorities, the death toll from starvation in the Gaza Strip has risen to 169 after 7 more people, including a child, died from hunger and malnutrition. The Palestinian death toll in the Gaza Strip has risen to 60,430, with 148,722 others injured since the conflict began between Hamas and Israel on the 7th of October 2023. Any quick truce deal, however, does not appear to be in sight. On Saturday, Hamas military wing released a new video showing Israeli hostage Eviatar David. The video shows David appearing skeletally thin. You'll have those visuals on the screen shortly. The Hamas footage, more of which was approved by the family for publication, includes David speaking in a weak voice. His remarks seem dictated to him by his captors and show him digging what he says he fears will be his own grave. And hundreds of protesters rallied. All right, there you have David on the screen right there. The Israeli hostage still held captive in Gaza. Now, hundreds of protesters rallied at Hostages Square in Tel Aviv, demanding the Israeli government ends the Gaza war and ensures the return of all the hostages. Of the 50 hostages remaining in Gaza, the IDF has confirmed the deaths of 28.
Watching helplessly as my younger brother Eviatar David and his fellow hostage, Guy Gilboa Dalal, slip away. They are on the absolute brink of death. In their current, unimaginable condition, they may have only days left to live. Hamas is using Eviatar in one of the most horrific and calculated campaigns of cruelty imaginable.
My child is dying. I've seen it with my own eyes, and the Prime Minister saw it too, and he knows his situation and the situation of the rest of the hostages, and yet he chooses again and again not to save him.
The Israeli Prime Minister spoke to the families of David and Braslavsky, and as per Netanyahu's office, he expressed deep shock at the harrowing videos and told the families that efforts to bring all the hostages home are ongoing. US Envoy Steve Witkoff also met with the anguished relatives of Israeli hostages who are still held in Gaza. Families of the hostages expressed cautious satisfaction following their meeting with Witkoff, but said that there was nothing new in efforts to reach a deal for the release of the captives.
I listened for 2 hours. With all due respect to Witkoff, he expressed sympathy, believed this was important to us, and showed interest in listening to all the stories. But I didn't hear anything new from him. I heard that there was pressure from the Americans to end this operation, but we didn't hear anything practical. Nor did I hear that when I asked him to exert pressure and set a time frame. Even if there is a deadline, we received no answers.
French Foreign Minister Jean-Noel Barrot denounced the videos of the hostages released by Hamas as despicable. He added that they must be freed without conditions and Hamas must be disarmed and excluded from ruling Gaza. Meanwhile, France continued to airdrop aid into Gaza. A French plane carried around 4 tons of freight, including the aid and the materials needed to reinforce the shipment to ensure that it drops safely on the ground. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian arrived in Pakistan's Islamabad on a 2-day state visit aimed at strengthening ties and increasing bilateral trade volume to $10 billion annually. Now, Pezeshkian's flight landed at Noor Khan Air Base on Saturday, where he was welcomed by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. He was also joined by Deputy Prime Minister Ishaq Dar and Information Minister Ataullah Tarar, along with other high-ranking government officials. A 21-gun salute was also given to the visiting Iranian president. The Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi also met his Pakistani counterpart Ishaq Dar. The two leaders discussed various issues pertaining to trade, economic cooperation, regional and international developments. Early in the morning, former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif and Punjab Chief Minister Maryam Nawaz received Pezeshkian on arrival in Lahore. And while in Lahore, Pezeshkian also visited the mausoleum of Pakistan's national poet Alam Iqbal. He received a guard of honor and laid floral wreaths at the mausoleum of the poet, who is still popular in Iran due to his Persian poetry. President Pezeshkian, who is accompanied by a high-level delegation, including Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, will meet with top Pakistani leaders during this trip, and this includes Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and President Asif Ali Zardari. Pezeshkian later flew to Islamabad, where he was warmly received by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. Now, before departure from Tehran, Pezeshkian spoke to Iran's state-run Press TV and said that Iran and Pakistan have always maintained good, sincere and deep relations, and there were plans to increase bilateral trade volume between both countries to $10 billion annually. Pezeshkian went on to say that Pakistan was one of the countries that condemned the joint attacks on its nuclear facilities by Israel and the United States last month, and that security and border issues in the region were a top priority.
regarding the troubles we had in the region and the cowardly and illegal aggression against our beloved country by Israel and the United States, which was against all international laws, Pakistan was among the countries that strongly condemned this aggression. Their parliament also condemned this aggression and announced that they would provide any cooperation and support necessary for the territorial integrity of our country, government and nation.
And the visit is Pezeshkian's first official one to Pakistan as President of Iran. Previously, Prime Minister Sharif had visited Iran on the 26th of May. Both leaders are expected to hold delegation-level talks. And over to the Russia-Ukraine front, air raid sirens sounded across Ukraine, including capital Kiev, as it came under Russian attack. Russia launched a barrage of missile and drone strikes on Ukraine, targeting its drone facilities. The Russian Defense Ministry said in its daily report that on Saturday, Moscow launched assaults in the directions of Sumy, Kharkiv and Donetsk over the past 24 hours, capturing another settlement in the Donetsk region that it also claimed Russia attacked Ukrainian drone production workshops and long-range drone control points. In addition to this, Russia's air defense systems shot down one guided aerial bomb and 338 fixed-wing Ukrainian drones. According to a report, Russian forces launched an unprecedented number of drones, 6,443 of them in the month of July alone. The figure included decoy drones sent into Ukraine's skies in efforts to saturate Ukraine's air defense systems. And on the other hand, the Security Service of Ukraine, SBU, said that its drones hit a drone storage facility and launch base in southwestern Russia's Krasnodar and an electronics plant in the western city of Penza. The General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces reported that its forces struck multiple targets inside Russia, including an oil refinery and oil storage facility. Eyewitness videos show an explosion near a Russian oil facility in Russia's Samara region. And the governor in Samara said that an enemy drone struck an industrial enterprise in the area. Ukraine also said that it hit military targets and a gas pipeline in Russia, where local authorities said 3 people were killed and 2 others were wounded. Russia said its air defenses intercepted over 300 Ukrainian drones in a span of 24 hours. Russian President Vladimir Putin reiterated on Friday that Russia still demands Ukraine abandon territory and give up NATO ambitions, conditions that Ukraine continues to reject. And then the US President Donald Trump has condemned Russian strikes on Kiev, as he has been doing since a while now, calling them disgusting. He has also announced plans to impose new sanctions on Moscow to pressure Putin to agree to a ceasefire. US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, who is currently on a West Asia tour, is now expected to visit Moscow. And Witkoff's last meeting with the Russian leader Vladimir Putin took place in April, and that yielded no breakthrough, as we've known now. But the White House insists that diplomacy is still on the table. The world is now staring at a crisis which has been on a slow boil and has entered the nuclear threshold. US and Russia, the two atomic titans, now flex their deadliest muscles, unleashing a dangerous round of brinkmanship that has rattled every global capital. More in this next report. Take a look.
The terrifying reality of this new Cold War era is unfolding right now in the silent, frigid depths of the oceans. In an unprecedented step, President Trump has ordered 2 US submarines to take up new stations. Trump did not say whether he meant nuclear-powered or nuclear-armed submarines, but he later hinted that these submarines would be placed near Russian water. The locations of these, which are always kept secret by the US military for obvious reason. US has a total of 71, while Russia is close behind with 64.
Mr. President, can you give us any more information on the nuclear subs? And what did Medvedev say to you that made you really mad?
Well, you just have to read what he said. He was talking about nuclear. When you talk about nuclear, we have to be prepared, and we're totally prepared.
A top Russian lawmaker, Viktor Vodolatsky, who is Duma deputy chairman, swiftly declared that Trump's submarines were already under watch, adding with a chilling finality that no response was needed. This isn't the diplomatic language of de-escalation. It is the brazen lexicon of a nation prepared for any eventuality. Trump made the decision of sending American submarines in reaction to former Russian President Medvedev, who had harshly criticized Trump's threat of new sanctions against Russia over the continuing invasion of Ukraine. Trump's remarks also came hours after Russian President Vladimir Putin said Moscow had started mass-producing its hypersonic, nuclear-capable Oreshnik missile. Putin said that he could deploy them to Belarus by year-end.
We have produced the first serially manufactured Oreshnik system, the first serial missile. It has been delivered to the troops. Now the production line is up and running. That's the first point. Second, our specialists and Belarusian military specialists have selected a site for future positions. Preparatory work is ongoing, and most likely we will be done with it before the year's end.
The nuclear saber rattling came against the backdrop of a deadline set by Trump for the end of next week for Russia to take steps to ending the Ukraine war or face unspecified new sanctions. Despite the pressure from Washington, Russia's onslaught against its pro-Western neighbor Ukraine continues with full force.
All right, over to some business updates. Last week had it all, from trade deals to tariff fireworks to data drama. Take a look at this next report now as we record the World Week and what to watch out for as the story unfolds in the days to come.
The biggest takeaway from last week's events was the August 1st tariffs deadline. Despite the various announcements on tariffs, not much has tangibly changed. Not so far anyway. Tariffs have risen significantly under Trump 2.0. Take the EU deal, for example. While car tariffs are down from 25% to 15%, the baseline tariff is up from 10% to 15%. More crucially, this new rate no longer stacks on top of the 1.5% average tariff. The EU was subject to before US President Donald Trump's inauguration. Throwing all of that together, the average tariff across everything the US imports from the EU has risen from 12.9% to 13.4% after last week's deal. That is quite literally a rounding error when it comes to tariffs. More importantly, will the deal be subject to quarterly reviews by the US administration? That is what Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent hinted last week. Those are just some of the many unanswered questions from last week's deals. That's a problem because the main advantage for Europe signing the deal was that it would reduce uncertainty for businesses and consumers. Overall, tariffs on US imports have jumped to double-digit rates from around 2% on average before Trump's second term. Separately, last week was filled with data drama. When it comes to the jobs market, everything changed last week. Markets certainly think so. Investors are now pricing a 93% chance of a September rate cut from the Federal Reserve following a surprisingly weak jobs report. That is up from 44% just hours before the biggest data revision since 2020. The jobs data appears to pull the rug from under Fed chair Jerome Powell's assertion that the labor market hasn't weakened over recent months. Analysts bet that regardless of when the Fed cuts rates, recent history shows the central bank could be forceful once it gets going. Tariffs are now starting to show up in US inflation. But the latest jobs bombshell certainly questions whether the Fed has the luxury of time to focus on what is expected to be a hot summer of US inflation figures. After July's shock jobs report, the focus will be on whether individual Fed officials are becoming more favorable towards a September rate cut. Michelle Bowman and Christopher Waller, have already both voted for a rate cut. They are visibly concerned about the jobs data. In terms of data, the ISM Services Index is the key activity report and should show modest improvement based on evidence from regional surveys. Meanwhile, the surprise narrowing of the goods deficit should mean that the overall trade deficit also improves. Business Bureau, WION, World is One.
The travel industry continues to be abuzz with new trends after solo travel, spiritual tourism and nostalgic vacations. Another trend is now on the rise, and it's called the naked flying trend. Well, this trend is all about relying on the essentials. It means that you travel only with bare minimum stuff and forego additional checked-in luggage. In simpler terms, the philosophy of less is more drives this trend. It entails that you pack everything in a carry-on bag to avoid additional cost for excess baggage. While the trend started for travelers who like to fly with little to no luggage, it's now expanding to people carrying just a handbag and no checked-in luggage. And this may have several travel benefits. In addition to no extra baggage, it can also help make one's travel experience easy and doesn't involve any risk of lost luggage. It also helps save time since one doesn't have to wait to collect their checked-in baggage. But the trend isn't everyone's cup of tea. Firstly, many people tend to overpack, especially for leisure trips where they would like multiple outfit changes. Secondly, not everyone prefers to travel with minimalist ways. For some, travel is a chance to go above and beyond, and budget may not always be a factor. Seth Rogen and Rose Byrne reunited for the premiere of the second season of Platonic. Take a look.
The fact that we've known each other a long time and worked with each other a lot probably ultimately helps our comfort level on screen.
I think we have the same kind of work ethic of being calm but driven and professional, and it's rare to have that kind of chemistry on screen in comedy. It's like lightning in a bottle. So I feel very grateful we found something else to do together.
And Amsterdam's canals are filled with rainbows decorated in pink and glitters in skies. This as Amsterdam celebrates Pride Parade 2025 for the LGBTQ plus community. Take a look at these visuals. That's a wrap on World DNA, but coming up after this short break, Ukraine's anti-corruption bodies have uncovered a major graft scheme involving the procurement of military drones and signal jamming systems at highly inflated prices. We'll delve into that report and a lot more lined up for you after this short break. Stay with us. This is WION World is One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
This week on the West Asia Post. Iran's new arsenal, Chinese missiles and Russian shields. Is Tehran bolstering its defenses for the next big war? The world watches as Gaza is being starved and pressure builds on Israel, with France, UK and Canada backing the Palestinian state. Could Palestine finally be recognized? Iraq melts under a deadly sun, with the nation fighting to stay alive in a 52-degree furnace.
Watch the West Asia Post, only on WION. World is One.
Emily Charlton, Andrea Sachs.
As shooting begins for The Devil Wears Prada 2, find out all about Anne Hathaway's upcoming project. Decode pop icon Taylor Swift's craze. And explore the South Asian trends taking over the world. All this and much more with me, Diksha Bisla, on WION at these times.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of. A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA. Join the conversation.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching WION World is One. I'm Shivan Chandna. Let's start with the headlines. France condemns videos of Israeli hostages released by Hamas as despicable, calls for unconditional release of hostages as well as disarmament of Hamas. The Palestine Red Crescent Society says one of its staff members has been killed and 3 others have been wounded in an Israeli attack on its headquarters in Gaza. US media reports say officials have opened a probe into Jack Smith, the former special counsel who led 2 criminal cases against President Trump. Smith is being investigated for potentially violating the Hatch Act, which prohibits federal workers from engaging in political activity. Ukrainian Air Force says Russia launched a record 6,443 drones and missiles into Ukraine in the month of July. The number is the highest of the war to date and around 13% more than what was recorded in June. Former Pakistan Prime Minister and PTI founder Imran Khan orders his party leader and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Chief Minister Ali Amin Gandapur to not allow federal government to conduct another military operation in the province and in its tribal areas. India will keep purchasing oil from Russia despite US President Donald Trump's threats of penalties, say multiple reports citing Indian government sources. OPEC Plus will raise oil output again by over 500,000 barrels daily in September, led by Saudi Arabia and Russia, aiming to regain market share amid US pressure for lower prices. Ukraine's anti-corruption bodies have uncovered a major graft scheme involving the procurement of military drones and signal jamming systems at highly inflated prices. This revelation has come just 2 days after the agency's independence had been restored, following protests demanding transparency and accountability. Now, earlier in the week, Ukraine's parliament reinstated the independence of its key anti-corruption bodies, NABU and SAPO, after a controversial attempt to strip their autonomy sparked the largest protest that Ukraine has seen since Russia's 2022 invasion. Now, according to the statement from NABU and SAPO, the bodies had caught a current member of parliament, 2 local officials, and an undisclosed number of National Guard personnel accepting bribes. These individuals, however, were not named in the release. According to reports, the offenders had received kickbacks of up to 30% of a contract's cost. 4 arrests have been made in the case so far. Meanwhile, in a statement on Telegram, Ukrainian President Zelensky wrote, and I quote, that there could only be zero tolerance for corruption, clear teamwork to expose it, and as a result, a just sentence. The crackdown comes after Zelensky, facing public backlash, reversed his attempt to place NABU and SAPO under his prosecutor general and moved to restore their independence. He reinstated their independence by submitting a bill that was later passed by parliament, and the move has since been hailed by Ukraine's European allies.
I would like to thank all the parliamentarians for approving my bill. Now it is a law. I have just signed the document. The text will be published immediately. This is a guarantee for the independent work of anti-corruption bodies.
Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has arrived in Pakistan on a 2-day state visit, and this is his first visit to Islamabad since the 12-day war against Israel and its ally United States. The visit is aimed at strengthening ties and increasing bilateral trade volume between Iran and Pakistan to $10 billion annually. Pezeshkian's flight landed at the Noor Khan Air Base in Islamabad on Saturday, where he was welcomed by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. A 21-gun salute was also given to the visiting Iranian president. The Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi also met his Pakistani counterpart Ishaq Dar. The 2 leaders discussed various issues pertaining to trade, economic cooperation, regional and international developments. Now, earlier in the morning, former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif and Punjab Chief Minister Maryam Nawaz, they received Pezeshkian on his arrival in Lahore. While in Lahore, Pezeshkian visited the mausoleum of Pakistan's national poet Iqbal. He received a guard of honor and laid floral wreath at the mausoleum of the poet, who is still popular in Iran due to his Persian poetry. President Pezeshkian, who is accompanied by a high-level delegation including Foreign Minister Arakchi, will also meet President Asif Ali Zardari in Islamabad. Now, before departure from Tehran, Pezeshkian spoke to Iran's state-run TV and said that Iran and Pakistan have always maintained good, sincere and deep relations, and that there were plans to only increase bilateral trade volume between both the countries. Pezeshkian went on to say that Pakistan was one of the countries that condemned the joint attacks on Iran's nuclear facilities by Israel and United States in the month of June, and that security and border issues in the region were a top priority.
Regarding the troubles we had in the region and the cowardly and illegal aggression against our beloved country by Israel and the United States, which was against all international laws, Pakistan was among the countries that strongly condemned this aggression. Their parliament also condemned this aggression and announced that they would provide any cooperation and support necessary for the territorial integrity of our country, government and nation.
The visit is Pezeshkian's first official one to Pakistan as President of Iran. Previously, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif had visited Iran on the 26th of May. Both leaders are expected to hold delegation-level talks. The Palestine Red Crescent Society says one of its staff members was killed and 3 others were wounded in an Israeli attack on its Khan Yunis headquarters in Gaza. And it comes just 2 days after US envoy Steve Witkoff visited a US-backed aid station in Gaza to inspect efforts to get food into the devastated territory. A video which the PRCS said captures the initial moments of the attack shows fires burning in a building with the floors covered in rubble. The attack comes as UN agencies have warned that time was running out and that Gaza was on the brink of a full-scale famine. Now, as per Gaza health authorities, the death toll from the starvation in Gaza Strip has risen to 169 after 7 more people, including a child, died from hunger and malnutrition. The Palestinian death toll in the Gaza Strip has risen to 60,430, with almost 149,000 others injured since the conflict began on the 7th of October 2023. Any quick truce deal, however, does not appear to be in sight as of now. On Saturday, Hamas military wing released a new video showing Israeli hostage Aviatar David, whom you can see on the screen right now. The video shows David appearing skeletally thin, and this Hamas footage, more of which was approved by the family for publication, includes David speaking in a weak voice. His remarks seem dictated to him by his captors and show him digging what he says he fears will be his own grave. Now, hundreds of protesters rallied at Hostages Square in Tel Aviv, demanding the Israeli government ends the Gaza war and ensures the return of all hostages. Of the 50 hostages remaining in Gaza, the IDF has confirmed the deaths of 28.
Watching helplessly as my younger brother Eviatar David and his fellow hostage, Guy Gilboa Dalal, slip away. They are on the absolute brink of death. In their current, unimaginable condition, they may have only days left to live. Hamas is using Eviatar in one of the most horrific and calculated campaigns of cruelty imaginable.
My child is dying. I've seen it with my own eyes, and the Prime Minister saw it too, and he knows his situation and the situation of the rest of the hostages, and yet he chooses again and again not to save him.
Prime Minister Netanyahu talked to the families of David and Braslavsky. As per Netanyahu's office, he expressed deep shock at the harrowing videos and told the families that efforts to bring all hostages home are ongoing. US envoy Steve Witkoff met anguished relatives of Israeli hostages still held in Gaza. Families of hostages expressed cautious satisfaction following their meeting with Witkoff, but said that there was nothing new in efforts to reach a deal for the release of the captives.
I listened for 2 hours. With all due respect to Witkoff, he expressed sympathy, believed this was important to us, and showed interest in listening to all the stories. But I didn't hear anything new from him. I heard that there was pressure from the Americans to end this operation, but we didn't hear anything practical. Nor did I hear that when I asked him to exert pressure and set a time frame. Even if there is a deadline, we received no answers.
French Foreign Minister Jean-Noel Barrot denounced the videos of hostages released by Hamas as despicable. He added that they must be freed without conditions and Hamas must be disarmed. Meanwhile, France continued to airdrop aid into Gaza. A French plane carried around 4 tons of freight, including the aid and the materials needed to reinforce the shipment to ensure it drops safely on the ground. India's Prime Minister has reaffirmed the resilience of the Indian economy. He is making a strong pitch for Swadeshi, which are indigenous products, and vocal for local, which is the ideology. This amid global economic turbulence triggered by tariff hikes announced by US President Donald Trump. Prime Minister Modi says India is on track to become the world's 3rd largest economy, stressing that the country must remain vigilant about its economic interests.
भारत भी दुनिया की तीसरी सबसे बड़ी अर्थव्यवस्था बनने जा रहा है। इसलिए भारत को भी अपने आर्थिक हितों को लेकर सजग रहना ही है।
Prime Minister Modi asserts that the government is doing everything necessary to serve the country's best interests. He urged the people to use products made within the country and go vocal for local.
देश का भला चाहते हैं, जो देश को तीसरे नंबर की इकोनॉमी बनाना चाहते हैं, ऐसा कोई भी राजनीतिक दल हो, कोई भी राजनेता हो, उसने अपने संकोच को छोड़ करके देश हित में हर पल, हर बार, हर जगह देशवासियों के अंदर एक भाव जगाना होगा, और वो है हम स्वदेशी का संकल्प लें।
India is the fastest growing major economy in the world. Earlier this year, India displaced Japan to become the world's 4th largest economy. And this week, the International Monetary Fund upgraded its outlook for the Indian economy for this year and the next. India is now expected to grow at a healthy rate of 6.4% this fiscal year and the next. And that is more than double the global average. The fund also raised its projections for emerging markets to 4.1%. The IMF credits this to better than expected activity in early 2025 and a significant reduction in US-China tariffs. Based on those projections, India is expected to outpace US economic growth comfortably. Shifting focus to India's southern state of Karnataka, Janata Dal secular leader and former MP Prajwal Revanna gets life sentence in the case related to the sexual assault of a 47-year-old woman. Prajwal was awarded the maximum punishment under Article 376 of the Indian Penal Code. He has also been levied a fine of 10 lakh rupees. Now, the court had pronounced him guilty on the 1st of August. This is one of the 4 cases filed against Prajwal Revanna for rape and molestation. The case was filed by a domestic worker who accused Revanna of rape. The court examined 23 witnesses and reviewed key forensic science laboratory reports of the video clips, as well as spot inspection reports from the scene of the crime. Now, this case came to public attention just ahead of the April 2024 Lok Sabha elections, after pen drives containing explicit videos allegedly involving Revanna were reportedly circulated in the Hassan district, which is Prajwal Revanna's own political stronghold. The disturbing footage triggered a public outrage and prompted a high-level investigation by a special investigation team, an SIT. Prajwal Revanna, who is the grandson of former Prime Minister of India, H.D. Devagowda, and nephew of former Karnataka Chief Minister H.D. Kumaraswamy, was arrested by the special investigation team on the 31st of May last year, upon his return from Germany. Heavy rainfall continues to wreak havoc in India's north. causing significant damage, including landslides, floods and traffic disruptions as a result. States like Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand have been severely affected, with cities inundated and rescue operations underway. Rain-triggered floods and landslides hit Himachal Pradesh, disrupting water supply. The Chandigarh-Manali National Highway was blocked following a massive landslide that swept away a stretch of road early Friday morning. The landslide triggered by heavy rainfall occurred near Pando Dam in Mandi district. Efforts are underway to clear the area. The district has suffered extensive damage in last month's flash floods already and continues to reel from the effects of relentless rain. Now, the IMD's regional centre has issued a yellow alert for heavy rain at isolated locations in Himachal Pradesh over the next 4 days. Monsoons continue to keep India's north under its grip. The ongoing Amarnath Yatra too has felt the effects. The annual Amarnath Yatra in Jammu and Kashmir closed a week before it was scheduled to end. The pilgrimage will be suspended from both the Pahalgam and Baltal routes from the 3rd of August due to continued deployment of men and machinery. Officials cited adverse weather conditions and its impact on the Yatra route as the reason for ending the Yatra prematurely. Meanwhile, in Uttarakhand, the Char Dham Yatra to Kedarnath Dham has finally resumed. It was suspended on Wednesday after a massive landslide hit Rudraprayag district. The blocked road between Sonprayag and Gaurikund are now operational. Heavy overnight rain had washed away a 50-meter stretch of the road, cutting off the main route for vehicles and pedestrians. In one of the biggest crackdowns on illegal mine workers, South Africa police has arrested 1,000 undocumented migrants. And these Zamzam or illegal migrants work in gold mines in the northeast region of the country. The week-long sweep took place in clandestine mines in Mpumalanga province. A police spokesman stated that there could be more arrests now, highlighting the fact that there are still some illegal miners who are underground. The Sheba mine, which is owned by Barberton Mines, one of the oldest gold mines in South Africa, said that the food and other materials are being supplied to a thriving illegal mining world underground, hence this intervention with the police and mine security. This message is clear that illegal mining should not be tolerated. The arrests come less than a year after a similar operation conducted near the town of Stilfontein. There are at least 90 clandestine miners who lost their lives before their mines were shut in January. The police surrounded the illegal mine to prevent supplies entering and forcing those inside to come to the surface. And as per history estimates and police crackdown over the years, an estimated 30,000 migrant miners operate in 6,000 abandoned shafts, producing 10% of the nation's gold. Even the trade is deadly in South Africa. The 2009 Harmony gold collapse killed 63 people, and the 2023 Boksburg gas leak that claimed 17 lives, and the 2024 Stilfontein siege left up to 100 dead. Over the years, authorities have stepped up Operation Wala Umgodi, forcing 1,500 miners to surface last year, with hundreds arrested in Gauteng and Mpumalanga. Donald Trump has given a major shout out to his press secretary Caroline Leavitt, calling her a machine gun. He remarked that the 27-year-old White House press secretary is the best press secretary any president has ever had. Hailing her qualities as a press secretary, Trump says Leavitt has become a star in her current role. Trump noted so as he took a moment in his latest interview to Newsmax host Rob Finnerty to comment on what exactly it is about Leavitt that he likes the most. Now, during this interaction, Trump said, and I'm really quoting here, "She has become a star. It is that face, it is that brain, it is those lips, the way they move. They move like she is a machine gun. She is a star. She is a great person, actually," quote unquote. Now, Leavitt began working for Trump in January of 2024 as his national press secretary during his election campaign. She took office as the White House press secretary on the 20th of January 2025 at the age of 27, becoming the youngest press secretary in White House history. Known for her fierce defense of Trump's presidency, White House press secretary Leavitt has repeatedly confronted tough questions regarding Trump's comments about the Jeffrey Epstein files, which he has branded a hoax.
The Democrats had control of this building, the White House, for 4 years, and they didn't do a dang thing when it came to transparency in regards to Jeffrey Epstein and his heinous crimes.